before the beginning and the end, before the thought of time, before the giants stirred, before the gods walked, before the coming of men and women, there was only confusion. Elemental forces at war with each other and themselves. Everything in the extreme: cold, heat, light, dark. No life, no death, just an endless churning, a chaos, nothingness. A maelstrom of mist swirling without purpose, tempered with fire, flaming without reason. Two worlds there were. To the north, Niflheim, the dark world of jagged rocks of grey, frozen lava. At its centre was a well, Vergelmere, from where there flowed rivers of poison. Mist and fog crept constantly across the rocks, burdening everything with a cold beyond cold. To the south, Muspel, the light world, where fires raged, sparks flew, and the searing heat melted everything into a molten mass. Nothing could survive the glowing embrace of the endless flames that leapt about with a heat beyond heat. Between these worlds, there was a space, a yawning void, a gap of nothing. No life was there. But time passed. More time than we can know or understand, and in that yearning gap of time, the two worlds met, where the poisonous rivers of Niflheim flowed into the gap. Slowly their venom formed great glaciers of cruel ice. Where the flames of Muspel spread north, they took to the air and became warming winds to melt the ice. And here there was a change, where dark and light, and heat and cold met. Something happened, washed by poison from the rivers, heated by the burning winds into steam. The frozen ice melted. In the melted waters of the void, life was born and took form. The giant, Ymir. The first creation, both father and mother, ancestor of all the giants. A cow there was, beyond belief in size, Oldhumla. Her milk sustained the giant Ymir, her tongue licked the ice and created a man, Buri, ancestor of all the gods. But the place of the yawning gap between the extremes of light and dark was still not a world. No sea, no sky, no sun, moon, or stars. No soil, no grass, no place of habitation. The yawning gap was nowhere, nothing still. A prison with no escape. To the north lay certain death entombed in endless ice. Certain death by blazing flames stood to the south. A new world was needed, a world that must be created or nothing would ever exist. 3 brothers there were, sons of Bor, son of Buri. They were Odin, and Vili, and Ve. They knew what was needed. A world had to be created between the realms of death. But what could this new world be made from? Answer: there was only one. Only in the agony of death could a new world be formed. A sacrifice was needed to make this place. A world born of destruction and death. The 3 brothers made their choice. Together they launched their assault. brothers against the giant Ymir. It was a terrible fight. The giant Ymir had great strength. The battle was not an easy one. Great blows he rained down on Odin and his kin. The battle was not over quickly, but the brothers fought hard, and together they prevailed. The giant Ymir was killed. The brothers cut him down. They were delighted. Now they could build. From his body, a new world was formed. His flesh is the soil. His bones are the mountains. His blood and sweat are the seas. His eyebrows form a wall to protect all. His skull forms the heavens. The stars you see are the fiery remnants of sparks from Muspel. Now Odin and his brothers had their world. A great flat land surrounded on all sides by deepest seas. There were meadows of fine grass, rivers and lakes of the purest waters, lofty mountains, a blue sky with clouds. Midgard was the name of this new realm, a place of beauty, but not yet complete. Odin and his brothers knew, for a world is not a world without people. And so they gathered. They walked to the world's edge along a beach where two logs lay, one of ash, one of elm. From the ash they made a man. From the elm, they made a woman. Each brother gave a gift to make them whole. From they had their shape and senses, so they might find their way in the world. From Vili, they had cunning and desire, so they could make their world into something. But from Odin, they had the greatest gift of all. The All-Father breathed the breath of life into them, so they could enjoy their world. These two, Ash and Embla, you are all descended from them, from this moment, from this time, all of you. But who am I, the teller of this tale, the weaver of these stories? What part do I play in this world's creation? In the deeds of giants, gods, and men? What powers do I possess? I see all that happens, but I am not a god. I am immense in size, beyond all others, but I am not a giant. I think and feel and suffer, but I am not a man or woman. My voice is seldom heard. I am Yggdrasil, the great ash tree, the world tree some call me. I cannot speak of my birth, none can, for none know. I have stood for all time. No god nor giant made me. Of all the trees, I am the largest. I am the most beautiful. My trunk shimmers with loam gleaming white. My mighty branches reach up into the skies. My leaves are always green. My 3 great roots reach down into the depths and to the heavens. All the 9 realms of this world in their embrace. All the 9 realms of this world shelter beneath my branches. I am the guardian, the protector, a nurturer of life within and without. Bound together, connected by me. On my uppermost branch, an eagle perches. A hawk sits between its eyes. It sees all. 4 stags frolic below and tear at my leaves. At my base, more venomous snakes than can be counted writhe and bite. A dragon gnaws at one root. From the dragon comes a squirrel, Ratatusk. It scampers in my branches, back and forth. It carries words of hate and ill will, back and forth. From dragon to eagle, back and forth. From eagle to dragon, back and forth. I hear it all. I have great strength. And yet, I know what hardship is. Disease feeds on my trunk, rotting my bark. I know what suffering is. I see the suffering of others, but I too suffer agonies. I know what it is to feel pain. My power is to endure. My strength is to survive. One root in Asgard grows, home of the gods. Odin, the All-Father who made the world. Odin, the All-Father who gave life. Asgard is his realm. He summons all the gods to council there, the Thing it is called. Here there is a well, the Well of Erd. My root lies in the spring beneath. 3 sisters there are, not of one race, kin to gods, to giants, to elves, to dwarves. Each day they take fresh mud from around the well. Each day they feed me. They give me healing and life. The 3 have great powers. They are the Norns. You will not remember them, but they know you. They know everything about you. They know your doom, when first you came into the world. They heard your cry of life. And as you drew your first breath, they knew you. The first of them is Erd. It is her well. Her name means fate. Then there is Verdandi. Her name means becoming. Then there is Skuld. Her name means what will be. Between them, they decide your doom. Your life is theirs, long or short, good or bad, hard or easy, straight or twisted. The Norns know all. Some say they twist the strands of life together as a thread. With shears they cut the thread when your time comes. Some say they write in runes and cast to the well. Unseen, they work to make the fate of all, elf, dwarf, giant, woman, man. From this moment, from this time, all of you. The world which I watch over is beyond imagination. It is a dream that dreams us. 9 realms there are. The Well of Erd lies in the realm of Asgard, the center of the world, where trunk and branch meet roots. Asgard is home to the Aesir, the gods and goddesses. Their names you know: Odin, Thor, Loki. Their deeds are your stories, told and retold, changed by time and tide, lost and forgotten, then recalled again. Their actions show a path to follow, or sometimes to avoid. Their names inspire adventurers to set forth to glory or destruction. Each day beneath my branches the gods hold council. The Thing, beside the Well of Erd, a holy place. They come from their halls to speak of many matters. Odin, the All-Father, listens, as I listen to all they have to say. It was not always so. In the beginning there was war. The first war of them all, a war between the gods. 2 families of gods there were. The Aesir, gods of war and power, the gods of the sky. The Vanir, gods of land and growth, the gods of the earth. 2 families could not both rule in peace. All knew this could not be. They were too similar and too different. And so the matter came to bloody blows. In Asgard, the Aesir raised a host well armed. So too in Vanaheim, the Vanir woke their weapons of war. And so the Aesir made their march. Wherever they crossed the land, they left their mark. The flames of war so terrible to see. Death and destruction followed in their wake. The land groaned under terrible torments, until the host of Odin faced the Vanir beneath the walls of Vanaheim, their home. The Aesir hoped that triumph would be theirs, and quickly. But the walls of Vanaheim were strong. With sword and spear and shield, battle was joined. But in the fight that followed, neither side could find advantage. Victory to both sides was denied. Gods are immortal, after all. Another way had to be found, before more bitter fighting was begun. A truce was called to see what might be done. With words instead of swords, both sides spoke their truths. I heard all that was said. To spare the world from death and fire and dread, after calm words were spoken, the two sides swore oaths to peace, sealed by a token. From Vanaheim to Asgard went Njord, his son Freyr, and daughter Freya. From Asgard to Vanaheim went Vili, Odin's brother, and Mimir, who was wise. To seal the peace, the gods all spat into a great cauldron, mixing their words and deeds together with their saliva, bound now in common cause. This symbol of their peace would not be wasted, for from the cauldron the gods grew a man. Quasir was his name, the wisest of all men, made of the gods. He would wander over the middle ground, the realm of Midgard, and speak with those he found, spreading his knowledge of the world and learning, always learning, until he could answer any question or solve any riddle. Even the gods made use of his mind, called upon him to use his insight to counter tricksters, fraudsters, and their kind. Two dwarves there were, Fiala and Gala. They knew of Quasir's gift, and they desired to make use of his gift themselves. Quasir knew all, but he did not know what they conspired. So they sent Quasir an invitation, saying they had many questions to be answered. They needed him to offer an explanation. And so he came, innocent of their true desires, to Svartalheim, realm of the dwarves. Beneath the mountains, in dark places, lit only by the blazing forges' fires, where dwarves worked metal to serve gods and man. When the wanderer entered their abode, their wicked plot began. They struck him down, in cold blood murdered him. Then, seeking to extract his wisdom, they drained him of his blood. Into 3 vessels, in a flood, mixed it with honey to make mead, so that they might drink whenever they had need, and profit from his knowledge. And as for poor Quasir, when the gods asked where he was, and summoned the wicked dwarves to make account, the dwarves told them that he had sadly died. He choked on his vast knowledge, was their suggestion. When there was no more to be learnt, when he had answered their last question, he breathed no more. And there was none stood by who knew a cure. That knowledge died with him, the dwarves said. It was not their fault Quasir was dead. In time there would be a reckoning. The dwarves would surely suffer for Quasir's pain, and Odin, All-Father, for himself would gain 3 humble vessels which contained the mead of poetry. Its bestowment is a gift for rhyme, where Odin thinks it's due. From this moment, from this time, all of you. In Asgard, the gods have habitation. Below is Midgard, realm of men and women, and of dwarves. Another race calls Midgard home. The giants, frost giants, mountain giants, children of Ymir, the first being created. Ymir slain by Odin and his brothers, Ymir whose body made our world. Gods and giants should be mortal foes, and yet, gods and giantesses are often seen. They have children, neither god nor giant, but something in between. In Jotunheim, realm of the giants, a great fortress stands. Its name is Utgard. Beyond it lies another well, the well of Mimir. The waters are pure knowledge. Mimir drank from the well, Mimir the wise, whose counsel kings relied on. He lived in Asgard, his wisdom gave instruction to the gods. Mimir the hostage, sent to Vanaheim to end the war between the gods. The Vanir cut off his head and sent it back to Odin. Odin, the All-Father, sought to know all things that might be known. He took the head of Mimir, filled it with special herbs, uttered a spell, and waited. His charm worked well. The head came back to life. Mimir spoke of secrets known to none, of other worlds, and the end of days. But Odin wanted more. A way to tell all the world's secrets, to drink from Mimir's well, the well of knowledge. A sacrifice was demanded. The cost was high. To see its mysteries, the All-Father had to pluck out his own eye. That was the price. So Odin did, as Mimir bid. He journeyed to the well, tore out his eye, and cast it in the waters. Then, filling a horn, he drank. Like mead the knowledge flowed. But there was more to know. Of magic spells, to know the future, what will be, of how the world will end, to understand the runes, symbols of destiny. So Odin came to me. Odin climbed into my branches, high up into my boughs. Once he had scaled my heights, he hung between life and death, for 9 days and 9 nights. I, Yggdrasil, the world tree, shared the All-Father's agony. For nothing can be gained without a worthy sacrifice. Death and rebirth, a making and unmaking across the earth. Odin knew this, that nothing worth the having is easily acquired. It must be gained by loss. Pain is its due. From this moment, from this time, all of you. My world is a world of riddles, a world of questions, where words might have 2 meanings. Sometimes even Odin cannot know what fate holds for us all, which way the wind might blow. Odin, Thor, and Loki, shapeshifters all. With wisdom, Odin holds the world in thrall. Odin, the All-Father. Thor, his son, the Thunderer, god of storm and season, wind and rain. He has great strength. He can inflict great pain upon his enemies. Trolls, frost giants, and other slithering creatures even worse. His hammer, Mjolnir, blessing to his friends, but to his enemies a deadly curse. And Loki, the Tangler, the outsider inside. Part god? Part giant? Twisted in his pride. The entertainer with many a wise crack. Would you rely on him to guard your back? Clever, or rather cunning? Handsome, yes. But his intentions? Very hard to guess. All three travel the cosmos, from Asgard to Middle-earth, from the realm of the gods to the realm of men, dwarves and giants. Upon the Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, sometimes to watch, sometimes to fight, sometimes to interfere. They stay a while, then they disappear. Sometimes months after their return, a child might appear. So it was with Loki, who spent time with the giantess, Angerboda in Jotunheim. They had 3 children, Jormungandr, Fenrir, and Hel. Their father, Loki, had bidden their mother, Angerboda, to keep them hidden. Of course, the gods found out. So Odin sent word to summon all the gods but Loki to join him in Asgard at the Well of Erd. But when they met in secret, none there knew exactly what it was that they should do. But knowing Loki as they did, they feared just what his children might grow up to be. So, all 3 were brought to Asgard secretly by night. But when they appeared, they were a hideous sight. One child was a serpent, growing still, its body thicker than the trunk of Yggdrasil. This was Jormungandr. One was a tiny wolf cub, but all knew that it would be a monster when it grew. This was Fenrir. The daughter was the strangest, for her head divided between half living and half dead. Half of her face was normal, living flesh, the other half covered in rotting flesh. Her name was Hel. One of the Norns appeared at the well. She viewed the monstrous creatures without word. She studied each in turn, and then she spoke. She prophesied these children's power was great, and Odin needed to decide their fate. For left to go their own ways, she was sure they would destroy the gods, their homes, and more. She spoke a word that left the gods in shock, of the last days, of Ragnarok. These monstrous children would all play a part in the world's end. So Odin thought. The serpent, Jormungandr, he ordered to be brought and thrown into the sea surrounding Midgard, where, as it was foretold, it grew. It wrapped itself around the world of men, twisting and turning until it could impale within its mouth the giant worm's own tail. Fenrir, the wolf cub, did not seem a threat. Odin took pity on it. Yet, he noted, and it came as no surprise, how quickly Fenrir increased in size. One day the giant wolf, Fenrir, would be bound in magic bonds made of the sound of a cat's footsteps, and a woman's beard, and of a fish's breath. And yet, it would break free and cause the death of Odin in the end of days, in Ragnarok. But what of Hel? there is another realm, another world that many here will view upon their death day. The realm of Niflheim. You may remember when the world was made, it was out of two primordial lands. One, a place of darkness, cold and ice. Jagged glaciers, rocks, no place for living beings to roam. Odin decided he would give this as a home to Hel. Here she would have her hall. Helheim would be her domain. And for subjects she would claim the dead, the old, the sick, the young, when they breathed their last breath. All those who did not have an honourable death in battle. Helheim would be their land. For cowards and oath-breakers, more torments were planned. A tower filled with serpents' venom would be their prison for all times. They would be made to suffer greatly for their crimes. A dragon, Nidhogg, would suck out their blood. I know this dragon well, for the third of my roots lies here in Niflheim, at the well of Vergilmere, from where many rivers have flowed since the beginning of time. And Nidhogg tears and chews at my root, causing great pain to me. Hel naturally agreed to rule the dead, and so departed to oversee her kingdom. Her servants would be many, that she knew. From this moment, from this time, all of you. In Asgard, home of the gods, what did they do to pass the time? The Norns sit at the Well of Erd. This you have seen and know. In Odin's hall, Valhalla, you would have heard the sound of feasting. For here lived the worthy dead of Midgard, brought from their land. When they had died, a sword grasped in their hand. The dead of battle. The dead are chosen by the Valkyries, daughters of kings who watch the battlefield. They seek out worthy warriors, choose who will live in victory and who will fall. They take them back to Odin's hall. In Valhalla the warriors feed on wild boar and fill their horns with mead. A goat there is, Hydrin, stands on the roof and eats my leaves. And from its udders comes the mead of heroes, in an endless flow. Meanwhile, gods and goddesses come and go. Thor with his hammer, off to fight with trolls. Odin the shapeshifter, to watch over all. And Loki, the mischief maker. What he thought of his children's fate we do not know. But there was always darkness in his heart. If there was discord in Asgard, then Loki always played a part. With words he'd weave a tapestry of deceit, speak fairly, so it seemed, offer advice, but his words were hollow. Whatever he did, sorrow and death would follow. He'd seem to be your friend, but you'd regret his friendship in the end. There was in Asgard one amongst the gods who all loved without question. Baldur, son of Frigg and Odin. You would not find a god more beautiful, more wise and just and kind. And yet, Balder was plagued by terrifying dreams of death, of darkness, and of civil war. Brother fighting brother, death on every side. He spoke of these nightmares, so the gods met to decide what should be done. To see if they could free the god they all loved from his destiny. But Odin, the All-Father, knew that one day his son's dream would all come true. And there was nothing that the gods could do. But Balder's mother, Frigg, would not surrender her beloved son to fate. She journeyed across the realms of Yggdrasil, and everywhere she went, sought to engender an agreement with all things to do no ill. Metals, stones, earth, animals, birds, trees, every kind of sickness and disease, snakes, venoms, fire, water, everyone swore oaths that they would never harm her son. And she could go back to her son and say, he need not live in fear another day. And thanks to her efforts, he now had immunity and could face any danger with impunity. The other gods could not believe it. Balder, the beautiful, the fair, and now invincible over the rest, they had to put his power to the test. So it became a sport amongst them all to see if any injury might befall their dearest friend, best loved of all the gods. So they took turns to test their arms to see if he might come to any harm. Balder survived whatever they could throw. So the gods resolved to test him with her bow and arrows made from wood of every sort. Even if they failed, it would be good sport. But there was one in Asgard who did not share the gods' love of a competition. Loki, who, of his own wicked volition, determined he would find a way to destroy that which the gods most loved, Balder the Beautiful. So, Loki, the shapeshifter, in disguise as an old woman, went to see what information he might prize from Frigg, Odin's wife, that he might use against fair Balder's life. Loki was clever. He span a web of words, lacking a clear direction. How was her son? What was the gods' intention? When would the gods meet next? Were there any plans begun? Only to shoot arrows at her son, the goddess revealed. A pointless exercise, she thought, as nothing could hurt him. No ash, nor lime, nor oak, for all had promised her. The trickster slyly spoke. Every single tree? From every realm? That must have been some feat. You're sure you didn't miss one in the heat of trying to save your son? Frigg looked at the inquisitive old crone, and in a quiet voice revealed that there was one. Not strong, not valued like the rest. A young and feeble shoot found far off in the west. Too far to go for such a weakling's promise. A plant called mistletoe. The old crone thanked the goddess for her time, bowed and departed. The trickster had succeeded, for now he had exactly what he needed. He travelled to the west, searched high and low, to find what he required, a sprig of mistletoe. Next day, the gods convened to hold their thing, their council meeting, beside the well of Erd. They formed a ring. They had a bow and arrows. They called Balder to stand to be a target for the sport they planned. But one stood back. A solitary god, not taking part, Balder's brother, blind Hod. Loki appeared. Again with weasel words he worked upon blind Hod and asked him why he shirked to honour his brother, as all the other gods had done, to show Baldur's invincibility. Hod said, "I have no weapon and I cannot see." Loki was ready to enact his plans. He placed a bow into the blind god's hands and knocked an arrow to the string. He guided Hod's aim to his brother's heart, and standing by him, told Hod to loose his dart. And so Hod did. The arrow flew in the direction bid. And as the other gods looked on in dread, Baldur the Fair fell, quite dead. And Loki fled. Poor Hod, blind Hod, he did not know the arrow that he shot was made of mistletoe, fashioned by Loki out of his hate to run through Baldur, Odin and Frigg's precious son. The other gods looked on in disbelief, and Asgard was consumed with bitter grief. It did not take long for the gods to name Loki as the one who they should blame, but Loki was gone. Odin and Thor in wrath set out to find him, to track down Loki, capture him and bind him, to suffer punishment for his most wicked crime. There would not be forgiveness, not this time. Loki the shapeshifter, as he fled, changed shape to try and stay one step ahead of Odin's righteous wrath. But he knew there was no hiding, nothing he could do. Twisting and turning in a salmon's form, he hoped that yet he might escape, but Thor trapped him in a net. Thor seized on Loki's tail and watched as he transformed back into Loki. His punishment was dreadful, as had been his crime. Pinioned to 3 rocks for all time. With fetters made of his son's entrails, a venomous serpent coiled above the place, its poison dripping on his unprotected face. In agony, he spent his remaining days. His faithful wife tried to protect him. She held a bowl to save him from the burning pain of poison dripping on his skin. But when she went to empty it, Loki's tormented agonies would again begin. And so the traitorous Loki got his due, and all bore witness. From this moment, from this time, all of you. But the children of Loki will have their revenge. Remember Fenrir the wolf? The cub who grew into a monstrous creature who was chained so that his terrible rage might be restrained? He will break his bonds and run amok. Nothing on land that lives will stand the shock. Death follows in his path. And Ragnarok. His brother, Jormungandr, the serpent writhes around the world, breathing his venom, poisoning the water, snuffing out the lives of all who dwell there. Nothing in the seas survives. Winter will follow winter, war follows war, an endless cycle. Soon, the sun will disappear, so will the moon. Earthquakes will rumble in their wake, mountains will tumble. Even my boughs and leaves will shake with shock at the beginning of the end of days of Ragnarok. First will come fire and flood, but then the 9 realms will be bathed in blood. Grim Loki will return at the head of Hell's foul legions. the unworthy, shameful dead, and battle will be joined. The final battle. Even Loki will hear their death rattle, echo across the skies. The sons of Loki too face their demise. And as the world began in ice and fire and void, it will plunge back to fire and ice and be destroyed. Dwarves, giants, elves, gods and goddesses, all you can name will perish on a pyre of searing flame. Everything they fought for, everything they won, everything they cherished. Gone. And yet, I will stand still, surrounded by ash and the memory of a dream. I will stand still, but not alone. For sheltering in my trunk, you'll find a woman and a man, last of their kind. Protected by my boughs from burning, the woman is called life, the man, life's yearning. Now, the old gods have vanished from the earth, but always out of death there comes rebirth. The tree stands still again, the tree stands strong. Yggdrasil, the world tree. But for how long? Until we see? We stand in shadows cast by ancestors from a forgotten past. If we don't want to burn, we must again look back to them, and we must learn. We live and breathe another day. The dreams renew, life finds a way. The world begins anew. From this moment, from this time, for all of you.
Love.